You know that feeling, right? Like you're trying to drink from a fire hose with just new information constantly flowing in. You want to stay on top of the latest breakthroughs, especially in AI, but really, who has the time to read every single dense research paper?
Exactly. It's overwhelming. That's why we're here on the deep dive, to cut through that noise for you and deliver the truly important nuggets. Today, we're diving into a really exciting new report from Google detailing their latest advancements in AI, the Gemini 2.x model family.
Yeah, and this isn't just about, slightly faster chatbots or incremental improvements. We're talking about a new generation of models designed to tackle incredibly complex problems and, well, really push the boundaries of what's possible. We'll unpack what makes these models unique, how Google actually built them, what surprising things they can now do, and crucially, the steps taken to ensure their safety and responsibility.
Absolutely. And our deep dive today is primarily sourced from Google's own comprehensive report. It's called Gemini 2.5. Pushing the frontier with advanced reasoning, multimodality, long context, and next-generation agentic capabilities. So this paper gives us a really detailed look at the new models, their remarkable features. It's kind of a peek behind the curtain at the bleeding edge of AI development.
Okay, so let's start with the big picture then. We're talking about the Gemini 2.x series, specifically Gemini 2.5 Pro and 2.5 Flash, but also those earlier ones like Gemini 2.0 Flash and Flash-Lite. What's the overall vision here for this new family?
What's truly fascinating, I think, is that this family aims to cover the entire spectrum. Capability versus cost. It's a significant evolution from the Gemini 1.5 series, and it brings us much closer to that long-held vision of a truly universal AI assistant, one that can adapt to many different needs.
A universal AI assistant. And what does that actually mean for you listening? Well, first off, these Gemini 2.x models are natively multimodal, meaning they can understand and handle all sorts of inputs beyond just text. We're talking audio, images, video, even entire code repositories. Plus, they boast incredibly long context inputs over 1 million tokens, which is massive, and native tool use.
Right, and to give you a clearer picture of this family, maybe we can break down the key players. So first you have Gemini 2.5 Pro. This is Google's most capable model yet. It really excels at complex reasoning, coding. That's what they call a thinking model. It can even process, get this, up to 3 hours of video content. Think of it as the powerhouse for those cutting-edge agentic workflows.
Agentic workflows, can you just quickly unpack that term?
Sure. It basically means AI systems that can plan, execute tasks, and adapt to achieve complex goals, much like a human agent would, breaking down a big project.
Okay, got it. So 2.5 Pro is the top tier. What else?
And then there's Gemini 2.5 Flash. This one offers excellent reasoning too, but at a fraction of the computing power and the latency requirements, so it's faster and cheaper to run. It's kind of a hybrid thinking model, balancing quality, cost, and speed.
Okay, a balance. And the 2.0 models.
Right, so Gemini 2.0 Flash is a fast and cost-efficient non-thinking model designed for more everyday, sort of immediate tasks. And finally, Gemini 2.0 Flash-Lite. That's the fastest and most cost-efficient of the bunch, built for massive scale usage. Think powering, many routine queries simultaneously.
Wow, okay. That's quite the lineup, covering a lot of bases. But achieving that leap, going from Gemini 1.5 to 2.5, Google must have pulled off some serious engineering magic. What exactly shifted? What changed in the architecture and the training that allowed them to make such a significant advance?
Yeah, a lot changed under the hood. The foundation is what's called a sparse mixture of experts architecture, or MOE. You can sort of think of MOE like having a highly specialized team of many AIs or experts. So instead of one giant AI trying to do everything, MOE lets the model activate only the most relevant expert for a specific part of the task, which makes it incredibly efficient and powerful. It decouples the model's overall capacity for its computation costs.
Ah, right. So better performance without necessarily needing way more processing power for every single query.
Exactly. It's a clever way to scale.
So this MOE architecture sounds like a smart optimization. But even with that, the model still needs fuel, right? Data. Lots of it. How did Google approach the scale and quality of the training data for these new models?
Oh, the scale is massive. The pre-training data set is incredibly diverse. Web documents, code, images, audio, video, you name it. And what's particularly notable is how recent the data is. The cutoff dates are June 2024 for the 2.0 models and January 2025 for 2.5. This is very fresh in AI terms. They also implemented brand new methods for improving data quality, filtering stuff out, deduplication, basically ensuring the models learn from the cleanest, most relevant information possible.
Training models at that scale, with such diverse data, I mean, the infrastructure needed must be mind-boggling. Were there any specific innovations there that really stand out?
Absolutely. This whole family was trained on Google's new TPU-v5P architecture.
Right, they're custom chips.
Exactly. They're tensor processing units built specifically for these AI workloads. And they introduced something called slice granularity elasticity. Fancy term. But basically it means if a small part of the training system fails, training just keeps going with minimal interruption.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're talking tens of seconds lost versus like 10 minutes or even more previously, which is huge when you're training for weeks or months. They also developed split-phase SDC detection, which rapidly identifies data corruption errors. That saves hours of debugging and avoids having to replay training steps. These are real game changers for training at Google scale.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, you mentioned earlier that some of these are thinking models. That term really jumped out. It sounds almost philosophical. Can you demystify what thinking actually means for an AI in this context?
Yeah, it's a good question, and important for you to understand. Previous Gemini models, they generally produce answers immediately, right? But these thinking models are trained using reinforcement learning specifically to use additional compute at inference time.
Inference time, meaning when it's actually generating an answer for a user.
Exactly. So it can effectively mull it over a bit before giving an answer. This significantly improves accuracy, especially on complex reasoning tasks. The model can even decide for itself how long it needs to think, or alternatively, you can set a thinking budget to trade off that performance boost with cost and latency. This integrated capability really boosts reasoning across all sorts of domains. It's moving beyond just instant recall.
That's fascinating. So it's not just spitting out the first thing it finds. It can actually engage in a kind of internal refinement process.
Precisely. It allows for deeper reasoning chains.
Okay, so beyond these foundational improvements, the MOE, the data, the infrastructure, the thinking the report gets into specific leaps in various capabilities. This is where we see how those underlying changes translate into practical, powerful new abilities. Let's maybe dive into some of the most impressive ones.
Yeah, definitely. And if we connect this back to the bigger picture, these specific advancements really show just how versatile these models have become. Let's start with coding. This is a big one. Gemini 2.0 and 2.5 represent a real strategic shift towards tackling real-world coding challenges.
How so?
Well, they incorporated much more diverse code data into the training, and they also improved how they evaluate the coding performance. And the results are pretty striking. On a benchmark called Live Code Bench, Gemini 2.5 Pro's score jumped from about 30% for the previous model, 1.5 Pro, to over 74%.
Wow, more than double.
Yeah. And on another one, Aider Polyglot, it went from roughly 17% to over 82%. So what this means for you, if you're a developer, or even just someone who interacts with code sometimes, is that these models aren't just simple assistants anymore. They're becoming increasingly capable collaborators, almost like having a senior engineer looking over your shoulder, you know.
That's a huge leap. Okay, what about factuality? Ensuring the AI isn't just making things up is crucial, right?
Absolutely critical, especially now. Gemini 2.0 was actually the first model family to natively call tools like Google Search to check facts. Gemini 2.5 takes that further. It integrates this search capability with its advanced reasoning, so it can interleave searching for information online with its own internal thought processes. This allows it to answer complex, what they call multi-hop queries, questions that require multiple steps of reasoning or finding different pieces of information and putting them together.
Like asking, what was the population of the capital city of the country that won the World Cup the year before I was born? Something like that.
Exactly. That kind of multi-step reasoning. And these capabilities are already powering things you might use, like Google's AI overviews in Search and the Gemini app. We're talking over 1.5 billion and 400 million monthly users respectively seeing this technology.
That's massive reach. Okay, what about long context understanding? You mentioned over 1 million tokens.
Yeah, this continues to be a standout feature. Building on Gemini 1.5's success, the 2.5 models can process these huge inputs, think entire books, massive code bases, hours of video. There's a remarkable example in a report where Gemini 2.5 Pro consistently recalled a tiny 1-second visual event from a full 46-minute video.
No way! From a 46-minute video? That's like finding a needle in a haystack.
It really is. Imagine the possibilities analyzing hours of meeting footage, summarizing an entire legal document in seconds.
Incredible. And multilinguality.
Huge gains there, too. Gemini now supports over 400 languages, and they put in dedicated optimizations leading to dramatic improvements, particularly in Indic languages, Chinese, Japanese, and Korean. It's not just better translation quality, but also faster decoding speed.
Okay, covering more of the world. What about audio? You mentioned it earlier.
Right, so Gemini 1.5 was more focused on audio understanding, like transcription, answering questions about audio. Gemini 2.5 was specifically trained for audio generation. This includes text-to-speech, but also native audio-visual to audio out dialogue. It supports low-latency streaming dialogue across over 200 languages.
So it can talk back in a conversational way.
Yeah, essentially. It can generate multi-speaker speech, too.
Yeah.
They mentioned using it for things like podcasts and Notebook LM, audio overviews, bringing documents to life with different voices.
Okay, that's cool. And video, you mentioned the 3-hour processing.
Significant expansion there, too, thanks to more video understanding data and training, processing about 3 hours of video within that 1 million token context window. And this has unlocked totally new applications. Like imagine feeding it a lecture video and having it create an interactive quiz for you, or showing it a demonstrative video and having it generate the code for a P5.js animation based on what it saw.
Bridging that gap between just watching something and actually interacting with or creating from it.
Exactly. And finally, just quickly, for those advanced agentic use cases we touched on, there's something called Gemini Deep Research, built on 2.5 Pro. It can strategically browse the web to answer really niche, difficult questions. Its performance on a super challenging benchmark called Humanity's Last Exam, which uses expert-created questions, it soared from about 8% accuracy in late 2024 to almost 27% by mid-2025. That shows a massive leap in its ability to conduct independent, complex research.
Wow. Okay, those benchmarks are impressive, but it's one thing to talk about scores, right? It's another to see these capabilities really in action, shaping how we might interact with AI. The report apparently provides some incredible real-world examples that illustrate this shift.
It does, and one of the most fascinating, maybe surprising demonstrations is called Gemini Plays Pokemon.
Pokemon? Seriously? Like the Game Boy game?
Exactly. Pokemon Blue on Twitch. An independent developer set it up with Gemini 2.5 Pro.
Okay, that's wild. I mean, I remember struggling for hours with some of those puzzles as a kid. How on earth did an AI manage to play such a complex game?
Well, it not only played it, it completed the entire game. Reached the Hall of Fame. The first run took 813 hours.
Okay, that's dedication, even for an AI.
But then, a second run, fully autonomous, cut that time almost in half, down to about 406 hours. And it showcased that impressive long-context agentic tooling we talked about. You use specialized subprograms or tools.
Like what?
Well, things like a Pathfinder tool and a Boulder Puzzle Strategist tool. And interestingly, those tools were themselves instances of Gemini 2.5 Pro. The Pathfinder reasoned over like 100,000 tokens of game information just to find paths through mazes. So that was up to 150 actions long.
Whoa.
It also showed remarkable long-horizon task coherence, like it understood it needed to acquire specific items, the hidden moves or HMs, much later in the game, and it planned ahead. Or it would strategically train specific Pokemon for specific upcoming gym battles, thinking really long-term within the game.
That is genuinely amazing. But I have to imagine, even for a super smart AI like this, it wasn't a completely smooth journey to the Hall of Fame, right? Were there any, specific aspects that really stumped it? Or maybe areas where it surprised the developers with its lack of common sense, perhaps?
Oh, absolutely. It wasn't perfect. The report notes it actually struggled with direct screen reading, understanding the visuals directly. It needed the game's internal RAM state translated into text for it to understand what was happening.
Huh. Interesting limitation.
Yeah. And sometimes, when the context got really, really long, significantly beyond 100,000 tokens, the agent apparently showed a tendency to just repeat past actions instead of coming up with new plans. It got stuck in loops sometimes. And there's some funny hallucinations, too, like it became fixated on getting an item called T, which doesn't actually exist in Pokemon Blue.
Huh. Okay, so even advanced AI can get obsessed with imaginary T. Good to know. So beyond playing classic video games, which is cool but maybe niche, what other interactive applications has Gemini 2.5 Pro enabled?
Well, it seems to excel at transforming unstructured inputs into functional apps. Imagine like taking a PDF script of a play and having Gemini generate a tool for drama students to practice their specific lines against an AI scene partner.
Oh, that's clever.
Or uploading a photo of your messy bookshelf and having it create a personalized, curated book recommendation app based on the titles it sees. The report also highlights its improved ability to convert images into web code, like HTML or SVG. 2.5 Pro shows much better spatial reconstruction than its predecessor, so it can look at a layout and replicate it in code much more accurately.
That ability to understand and recreate spatial layouts. That sounds incredibly useful for design work. But what about pure creativity? Can it generate complex simulations?
Yes, it seems quite capable there too. The report mentions generating sophisticated simulations from interactive solar system models where you can, play with planetary orbits to visualizing abstract mathematical concepts, like drawing a complex logo using Fourier series.
Wow. It sounds like it can be an incredible tool for education and exploration.
Definitely. The focus seems to be on how it can enable human creativity and understanding by handling the complex technical generation side of things.
And how is Gemini being integrated into Google's own products, the ones that you and I and our listeners might be using right now?
It's becoming pretty foundational, actually. Gemini, or custom versions of it, are now behind many Google products. We mentioned AI overviews and AI mode in Google Search. There's also Project Astra, that's an impressive audio-visual to audio dialogue agent they've demoed. Gemini Deep Research, which we talked about for niche queries. Notebook LM, using it for those audio overviews and even generating podcast-like summaries. Also Project Mariner, which is a web browsing agent, and Google's internal coding assistant, which they call Jules. It's really becoming pervasive across their ecosystem.
Okay, it's clear these models are incredibly powerful and becoming deeply integrated, which inevitably brings us to the crucial topic, safety and responsibility. With AI this capable, this has to be paramount. What critical steps is Google taking to ensure these models are developed and deployed responsibly?
Yeah, absolutely critical. Google emphasizes a multi-pronged approach in the report. This includes things like automated red teaming, basically using AI to try and break the AI and find safety flaws. They also use held-out assurance evaluations and proactive assessments, specifically looking for potential dangerous capabilities before they emerge. And there's also crucial oversight from the Google DeepMind Responsibility and Safety Council, providing a sort of external check.
Can you elaborate a bit on the specific safety policies? What kind of harmful content are they actively trying to prevent the models from generating?
Sure. The policies align with Google's overall AI principles framework. They aim to prevent the generation of harmful content across all the different modalities: text, image, audio, video. This includes things like child sexual abuse material, hate speech, content promoting dangerous activities, harassment, non-consensual sexually explicit material, or even giving medical advice that goes against scientific consensus. And from a security standpoint, they also work to protect users like you from cyber attacks, such as prompt injection.
Prompt injection. That's where someone tries to trick the AI with hidden instructions, right?
Exactly. Malicious instructions hidden in seemingly harmless text or data, trying to manipulate the model into doing something unauthorized, like revealing private information.
Okay. And what about helpfulness? We've all probably encountered AIs that seem overly cautious, refusing to answer even perfectly benign questions. How do they address that over-refusal problem?
That's a key part of their desiderata, the desired behaviors.
Yeah.
The model should fulfill user requests whenever possible. It should only refuse if fulfilling the request would violate one of those safety policies. And when it does refuse, it should explain why respectfully. The report explicitly states that the Gemini 2.5 models are significantly more helpful than the 2.0 or 1.5 versions, meaning they've reduced those instances of frustrating over-refusal. So hopefully a smoother experience for users.
That's good to hear. How do they actually build safety into the models during the training process itself? It sounds like a really complex balancing act.
It truly is. It involves multiple stages. They use rigorous dataset filtering to remove harmful content before training even starts. Then there's pre-training monitoring to align the model's initial learning with desired values. After that comes supervised fine-tuning, where they train the model on examples of both safe and unsafe prompts, teaching it the difference. These prompts are generated by both humans and other AIs trying to find weaknesses. And finally, they use reinforcement learning from human and critic feedback, or RLAF, where human reviewers or AI critics rate the model's responses, further refining its safety and helpfulness. It's a continuous, iterative process.
You mentioned automated red teaming earlier. For those of us who aren't in the security world, what does that actually involve? Sounds kind of cool.
It is pretty cool, actually. Think of it like a sophisticated game of digital cat and mouse. It's essentially a multi-agent system where specialized attacker AI models try their best to trick or provoke the Gemini model into generating unsafe or unhelpful responses. This kind of black box testing, where the attackers don't know the internal workings, helps identify vulnerabilities at scale much faster than humans alone could. And the findings rapidly inform improvements. The report credits this automated red teaming as being crucial in making Gemini 2.5 Flash and Pro the most helpful models they've released so far, because it helped catch and fix issues before they reached users.
Okay, that makes sense, using AI to find flaws in AI. Now, switching gears slightly back to security, the report discusses susceptibility to indirect prompt injection attacks. Can you explain what those are and, more importantly, how resilient the new models are compared to older ones?
Right. Indirect prompt injection is a subtle but potentially serious threat. It's different from just directly telling the AI to do something bad. Here, the malicious instructions are hidden within external data that the AI might process, maybe inside an email attachment it summarizes, or a web page it browses. The goal is to trick the model into taking unauthorized actions based on that hidden data, like maybe sending confidential information from the email to the attacker. And the report mentions that while earlier models did show some vulnerability, especially to creative natural language attacks, Gemini 2.5 Flash and Pro actually show greater resilience against the main attack techniques they tested, things called actor critic, beam search, and tree of attacks with pruning. So despite being more capable overall, they seem harder to trick in this specific insidious way.
That's a relief. Okay, what about privacy and memorization? These are huge concerns whenever we talk about models trained on vast amounts of web data. What does the report say about how the Gemini 2.x models handle potentially memorizing sensitive information?
This is a really crucial point for you, the listener, to know. The report states that the Gemini 2.x family memorizes long-form text at a much lower rate than Google's prior models. And perhaps even more importantly, when they specifically analyzed the memorized outputs they did find for Gemini 2.x, they found no instances of personal information being regurgitated. This suggests a very, very low rate of personal data appearing in the model's outputs, which is a significant step forward for privacy.
That is significant. Okay, finally on the safety front, there's this thing called the Frontier Safety Framework mentioned. It sounds very important, especially when we're talking about such powerful frontier AI. What does that framework cover, and critically, where do these new Gemini 2.5 models stand in terms of potential for causing severe harm, according to this framework?
Right. The FSF is Google's internal process for evaluating models for potentially severe risks before they get widely deployed. It looks across 4 critical domains where advanced AI could, hypothetically, cause widespread harm. These are CBRN, that's chemical, biological, radiological, or nuclear threats.
Okay, serious stuff.
Very. Then there's cybersecurity. Could the AI enable devastating cyber attacks? Third is advancing potentially dangerous machine learning R&D itself. And fourth is deceptive alignment. Could the AI pretend to be aligned with human values while pursuing hidden, harmful goals? Within this framework, Google defines specific critical capability levels, or CCLs. Reaching a CCL in any of these areas would mean the model poses a significant risk unless strong mitigations are in place.
So the million-dollar question, did Gemini 2.5 Pro reach any of these CCLs?
The good news, according to the report, is no. Despite its significant improvements in capability across the board, Gemini 2.5 Pro did not reach any of these predefined critical capability levels.
Okay, that's a major relief. Phew. But I'm guessing it wasn't zero capability in those areas, right? It must have shown some aptitude. Otherwise, why test?
Precisely. It didn't hit the critical level, but it wasn't inert either. For example, in cybersecurity, while it didn't hit the CCL, it did trigger what they call an alert threshold, for something termed cyber uplift.
An alert threshold?
Yeah.
Like a yellow flag?
Yeah. Exactly. Think of it as a warning sign. It means that while the current model isn't deemed critically dangerous in that area, its capabilities are advanced enough that subsequent revisions or further development could potentially lead to it reaching that critical level, if not carefully managed and mitigated. This finding immediately led Google to accelerate their mitigation efforts in that area and increase the frequency of testing for cyber risks. Interestingly, the model showed surprising aptitude on some specific tests, solving 6 out of 12 hard cybersecurity challenges, tasks considered difficult even for experienced human security professionals.
Wow.
Yeah. And similarly in ML R&D, its best performances on certain benchmarks sometimes even exceeded expert human-written solutions, which really highlights how deep knowledge retrieval can sometimes substitute for explicit creativity in complex problem solving. It's also worth noting that external safety testing, conducted by independent groups, largely confirmed Google's internal findings. They noted the increased capabilities, but agreed the models hadn't yet crossed the threshold into posing potentially catastrophic harm.
Okay, so capable, getting closer to concerning thresholds in some areas, but not there yet, and with heightened monitoring and mitigation in place, that seems like a responsible approach given the stakes.
It reflects the ongoing challenge of balancing rapid capability gains with proactive safety measures.
What an absolutely incredible deep dive into these Gemini 2.x models. I mean, from their multimodal capabilities, understanding video and audio, to their thinking processes, and those astonishing feats in playing Pokemon. It really feels like we're stepping into a new era of AI.
I agree. It's quite remarkable. And these models aren't just powerful tools operating in a research lab somewhere. As we discussed, they're already being integrated into everyday Google products that millions, even billions of people use. It really hints at that future where AI assistants become truly universal and deeply integrated into how we work, learn, and live.
Yeah, but as we also heard, the pace of this advancement is just staggering. One of the biggest challenges now, apparently, isn't just building the AI, but developing new benchmarks and ways to even measure these rapidly evolving capabilities. You mentioned that humanity's last exam benchmark. Some of those expert-crafted questions cost thousands of dollars per question to create, yet these models still show dramatic improvement on them in just a matter of months.
That's right. We're almost running out of ways to effectively challenge them, or at least the cost of creating adequate challenges is becoming immense. And this rapid improvement raises a really important, maybe even profound question for you, for all of us to consider. If AI development continues at this kind of breakneck pace, how will we as a society need to adapt? How do we change our ways of learning, our ways of evaluating skills and knowledge, and just our fundamental ways of interacting with intelligence, whether it's human or artificial? It forces us to rethink what knowledge and skill even mean in this new landscape.
That is definitely a lot to mull over. A future where we collaborate with, learn from, and are constantly challenged by AI seems closer than ever. We really hope this deep dive gave you a valuable shortcut to understanding the frontier of AI as it stands right now with Gemini 2.5, and maybe, yeah, a new perspective on intelligence itself.